Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. On the last segment, I showed you the differences between fifes and flutes. I focused on it because a lot of people just think of a fife as a regular flute and they don't understand the differences, so I thought I would clear that up. So I also showed you a very large fife called a walking stick flute because you take it walking, although you can't put your weight on it. It's just more or less a novelty item. Well, I have another item today, and I'm going to have to look at this, make sure that you see it. This is huge. This is probably the largest instrument. Yeah, that's good. The largest instrument I have. It is another fife. And supposedly you take it walking. It's actually got a little rubber foot on it, so you can take it walking with you. Although I would never do it. There's too much damage that could be done. And then it's very, very big. It's a fife, and what I'm going to do is show you. It's going to be hard for them to pick it up, but here is the mouthpiece, and the wood is dark, and of course it looks black, so you may not be able to fix it. I mean, you may not be able to kind of watch. I can barely see it here on the monitor. This is the mouthpiece. It's a simple round hole, and that's what all of these fifes have. They have a simple round hole. Then when you go down here, you get to where you have your fingerings. And I'm just going to put my hand on it as you would if you were playing it. And then you hold it out, blow in here, and part of it is sticking out on one side, and the rest of it is below you. Now, one thing about this instrument is that it does have, and I don't know if it can be picked up, it has a compass on the top. That's the compass. So when you take it walking, you know what direction you're going in. If you don't, maybe you shouldn't have gone walking to begin with, but at any rate, that's it. This is where the compass is. And I have used the compass because occasionally there'll be a news show on, and they'll say if you look at the night sky in the east, you'll find some kind of a comet flying by. And in order to know where the east is, I sometimes have used the compass for that. I've never taken it walking. Too much damage could be done if you actually tripped on it or if you fell on it, and also damage to the instrument. This is a very, very unique instrument, and it's bamboo, all handmade. And I did have two of them. Once I had two of them. They sent me this as a replacement because it's the first one I had split in the middle all the way down and just sprung open. And so it was like a half a flute. There's a big wide gap all the way down. This is because when they made it, I think they made the wood too tight. And even though bamboo can be a tough kind of wood, it also can be fragile. It also can split easily. I've noticed that before, and I've had the other instruments split because when you play it, especially if you play a bamboo instrument that's like a kind of like a recorder where you blow into it, the warm air against the cool air of the outside, you're blowing in it, you'll sometimes get a little crack in the area of the mouthpiece. And the problem with that is that crack always gets bigger. And if the more you play it, the bigger it gets. So you may as well just put the instrument away and show it to people or explain what it is, but don't play it, because if you do, it's going to split more and more, and it may do that anyway. And in the end, you're not going to be able to play it at all. But this is in good shape. I've had it for a number of years, and it's never cracked, and it's never split. I do have a bamboo saxophone, and the bamboo saxophone has layers. I thought about bringing it, but I didn't think I'd have the time to really demonstrate it. It has layers of bamboo wrapped around it. You can see layers of it. It'll never crack. It's very well made, and it's glazed. One of the reasons it's glazed is so insects can't get into it. Believe it or not, that is one of the reasons. This is also glazed. It's a beautiful, beautiful wood. And it's very, very large. And I bring it in, just some of these instruments that I have, I just bring them in just for the sake of showing, because a lot of people will never see anything like this. This I got out of a magazine, and I ordered it. The first one split. I complained about it. They sent me this, with deepest apologies that the other one wasn't right. Now you can see, I'm looking at the monitor, I know, but now you can see the whole thing. The bottom, the top, the hole for your mouthpiece right here, and that large extension on the bottom. And there is a little hole here where air goes, but it's not a key. You don't have to use it for anything. It's just there. So this is a walking stick flute, and a very nice one. So I'm going to put this down. It gives you a chance to see. I like to bring in instruments sometimes that are unusual. It gives you a chance to see them and see what they're like. Now what I want to do is talk to you about tonguing. If you have a recorder in any instrument, you know, because I've said it before, you've got to learn how to tongue. And to tongue would be if you don't know how to tongue. I've heard a lot of students do that because they just don't know how to tongue. You have to learn how to tongue because most of the music that you're going to be playing, even professional music, most of it is tongued. And you have to be able to get crisp, clear notes. So how do you do that? In order to tongue, and I'm just going to show you just as a review, although many of you probably already know, you've heard me explain it before. You put the instrument, this has a fipple mouthpiece, you put the instrument in your mouth about a third of the way. You put your teeth, your front teeth, on the top of the mouthpiece. You curl your lip over your bottom teeth, and it's your lip that goes underneath. So it's teeth and lip on the bottom. You squeeze the sides of your mouth closed, and then when you start playing, if you're going to tongue it, you say something, you don't say it, but you make the motion, like you're saying ta, ta, ti. If you think of ti, let me see, anything that has a te, ta, tu, ta, ta, ta. And then when you do that, you're bringing your tongue up, ta, to where your teeth are, and then withdrawing quickly. So and you can do it slow, you can do it fast, but that's the way you have to do it. You have to be able to tongue. And if you don't, you're just blowing into it. You're not getting anything crisp. You're not getting anything clear. So what I did is I wrote a song. This is a very recent song, like last night. And this is a set of 16th notes with a quarter note. This is 4/4 time. And 16th notes have two flags. If you look at the bottom here, there's a little chart here. This circle is a whole note. That would be worth 4 beats. This is 4/4 time. So you have 4 beats to a measure, and a quarter note gets 1 beat. The whole note would get 4 beats. It would be the only note in the measure. You would have half notes that have 1 stem on it, and they're clear, but 1 stem, you can write it in different directions. A quarter note is colored in, 1 stem, but it's a black note instead of a clear one. The 8th notes have a little flag on it. You have the body of the note, you have the stem right here, and you have that little flag right there. That's an 8th note. 16th notes have 2. They have 2 lines. So if you have a 16th note and it has 2 flags on it, or if you write a group of them together and you have put the 2 lines together, they're all 16th notes. 16th notes, you would have 4 to a beat. Quarter notes, 1 to a beat. 8th notes would be 2 to a beat. That's just the way that you would count it. So if you're going to play this, and I'm not going to play it fast, this would be like 4. This would be like the last beat of a measure. This would be 4. Then 1, 2, those 2 this is all 1 beat. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And instead of just having you play 16th notes endlessly, I made it into a song. It's not a great song. It's more like an exercise. The difference between an exercise and a song is the exercise is you're focusing on teaching certain things, and you can do it in the form of a song. or you don't have to do it in the form of a song, but I like to because it's more fun for the student. So I'm going to play this slow, and I'm going to be tonguing every single note. So this would be 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the way it goes all the way through. And so I won't play it fast, but this is where it goes. So if you can follow along the music, then you can follow along with what I'm doing. This is the way it goes. That's the whole thing. Now I can make it louder, I can make it softer, I can make it faster, slower, whatever. So it becomes kind of like a song. I'm going to play it a little bit faster because when you start to learn to tongue, you need to tongue so you can be able to tongue very fast. But not always. Sometimes you need to tongue it slowly. Just as long as you hit your tongue on the mouthpiece by your teeth, when you start something and keep it going, then you can tongue at any speed you want. But it is a trick to do it because it's not always easy. So I'm going to play it again. You wouldn't want to tongue it much faster than that. I'm not sure my tongue could go much faster than that. And most music doesn't go that fast if you're tonguing that much. But it makes a good exercise in tonguing because you know you have to tongue. So see, I kind of created a song, and as I have discussed with you the intervals between the notes, you can have an interval and make a song from it. It's kind of the beginning of a song. It needs a little work, but every note was tongued. Now, when you have the instrument, just for review, you pick the instrument up, your hands are curved on the body of the instrument. You don't play flat. Some people try to, but you're never going to get the notes right if you do. So you curve, and you keep your fingers above. Pretty much, even if you're not using a key, you keep your fingers close by because you could very quickly have to change and do another note that's harder to get. So you keep your fingers ready. And then your thumb is on the thumb hole in the back, which is another tone hole. Everything is curved. Left hand on top, right hand on the bottom. And then you use your thumb. It can be anywhere. There's no special place for it, but it can be anywhere. And that supports the instrument balance-wise. You're not doing anything with your left pinky finger, but you know it's there, but you're not doing anything with it. If you had a saxophone, you would be playing a G sharp with it because there's an extra side key for that. But here it is, and you can play marvelous music, but you've got to have the position right. You've got to sit up straight. You've got to blow in. You've got to be able to tongue. You've got to be able to read the music. And when you do that, you're able to play. So let's go over this again. I'm going to do it slow. You're going to tongue every note, and you're going to be able to hear me tongue every note. So if you want to watch the music, and remember, count out at the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm going to be tonguing everything. So we'll try this once again. how do you finger that E? Just to go into this a little bit. Here's your E. I've got plenty of them in there. The E is fingered like this. B, A, G, F, E, D. So this would be the E. And this would be the low E. How do I get the high E? I take my thumb and I draw it down a little bit so that you can see it's not completely covered. That's called half-holing. When you do that, for a lot of the notes of the recorder, it bounces the note up an octave, and that's what you want. If you don't do that, if you don't have it open again enough, you won't get an octave. You may get a squeal or a squeak, but it won't be an octave. It'll be a squeal or a squeak because it's not fully covered, but it's not fully open. You have to have it about halfway. That's half-holing. So if I want to play a low E, and I want to go into a high E, pull that thumb down. If I want to do it with an F, with an E, F sharp, now on the D, it doesn't quite work that way. I can probably force it, but with a D, you have everything covered, and to get that high D, you lift everything off. And the only thing, including the thumb, which I can't do right now or I'll drop it, but everything goes off. And I've taken the thumb off. You can't see it probably because it's facing me, but I've taken everything off. So how do I balance the instrument? Well, I have the mouthpiece in my mouth. That's one balance. And I will keep one finger or maybe two down here. It's not going to affect the pitch. If it was up here, it would affect the pitch. But down here, where you have a couple of holes free, it won't affect the pitch. Notice when I hit the D, I have to have this finger off, or I'm going to get a C. So this is a low D. When I go to the high D, everything comes off, and I put this finger down in my mouth, and that is the balance for the instruments. I'm always telling people, piano, one finger, one note. You get into the woodwinds, you can get 7 or 8 fingers just for one note. And that's the way you do it. Now, if I were playing a flute, going from that low D to the high D, all I have to do is lift this finger. And in the flute, that's what you do. Which is a lot easier than... which is one of the reasons that I sometimes use the flute finger as an alternate finger, depending upon what I'm playing, of course. And on a woodwind instrument, sometimes you have more than one fingering for a note. For example, the saxophone has 5 ways to play a B flat. So which of the 5 ways is the right way to play a B flat on a saxophone? It depends upon the music and the notes that come before the B flat and the notes that come after the B flat. I mean, you may be able to play a B flat very simply by lifting a couple of fingers, or you may have to use a side key for a B flat. There is a way of using a side key. You play an A and hit a side key to get a B flat. But when I adapt for the recorder, I'm going to use the simplest way to do it as long as it pitches. Sometimes I make up my own fingerings, and it works very well. I do that sometimes when I'm playing Handel's Messiah. I just use there's a couple of high notes that I made up my own fingerings, and it comes in every time. So alternate fingerings I don't think is a bad thing, but you also have to know what the real thing is. So for that D, you go from here, low D, and then you put your finger down, everything comes up. You have to do it at the same time. If you don't do everything at the same time, you're going to get some extra notes that you're not planning to get. So that's the way you do it. For that E, however, the low E, I'm just half holding in the back, and you don't see it because it's facing me, but the low E, high E, F, F sharp, G, and so a number of notes you can do that with. The other instruments like saxophone, clarinets, oboe, bassoons, and flutes will have an octave mechanism on the back that would be comparable to the thumb hole, but it's an actual key, and you press it and you bounce a note up. Clarinets are a little bit more complicated. You don't get an octave when you use a register, so it's not called an octave key, it's called a register key. It puts you in another register, a higher register, so you get the octave plus another 5 notes. So with clarinet, you have to learn 2 sets of fingerings, one for the lower register and one for the higher register. And you have to bounce back and forth between the two, which makes the clarinet a more difficult instrument to learn how to play. But nonetheless, you can do with a recorder pretty much anything you can do with any other instrument. You just have to know how to tweak it to make it do it, and it can play some very complicated music. So let me play this once again, normal speed, or what I would consider to be normal speed, and then we'll close with it because we're getting close to the end of time. And count, if you can count and you can realize these are 16th notes, 4 to a beat, and I'm doing that all the way through the song. This is it. Now, when you can play something like this clearly, you really do know how to tongue. So I'm going to close it here. We'll be doing something else next time. Please join me then.